Hi, this is Adam from BallyArcade.com. In this video I'm going to cover the Blue RAM expansion, a piece of hardware that is a RAM expander for the Bally Arcade, also known as the Astrocade, more commonly these days. It was first released in about 1980 by Perkins Engineering. It first shipped with about 4K of RAM, and there was a cartridge later released called Blue RAM Basic 1.1, and it's probably the best way to use this RAM expansion unit. But before that, there was basically an expansion that allowed you to use the RAM to store some basic programs and strings and stuff like that in the RAM expansion, but you used it with Bally Basic. The RAM expansion is going to be further explained in the videos. I'm going to put some stills here that will show you the details of the system and maybe some other, maybe the Blue RAM keyboard and stuff like that. But most of this video is actually not going to be a slideshow of any sort. It's going to be pictures of the hardware. After the review of the hardware, I'm going to have 10 videos showing some example software. I wasn't planning on doing that at all. I was going to have some stills of some software, and then I was going to show software in a different video. But what I decided to do is show actually 10 different pieces of software. Some of it is utilities, and some of it is made up of games. The 10 pieces of software I'm going to show are a very short example of Blue RAM Basic, and which I just read a three-line program and then run it. Then there's going to be a game by George Moses called Astrocade. He originally wrote this for Bally Basic and ported it to Blue RAM Basic, so it's got more colors and more sound. Then there's Ken Lil's Blue RAM Operating Guide, which is about a half an hour long normally, but I've edited it down to just maybe 4 or 5 minutes. I plan to upload that in full about, I don't know, a couple of weeks. That was created in 1984 and was eventually put on the back of Blue RAM Basic. Then there's a game by Wavemakers, released in 1983, an upgrade of the Astro Basic game Gate Escape. I think this game is pretty fun. Then there is an example of how to load in a cartridge into the Blue RAM utility. And one of my favorite features of the Blue RAM hardware is that you could actually edit cartridges by putting them in the Blue RAM's memory and then changing them to your heart's content. Of course, you had to understand machine language to do this, but you could do it, and I just show you, I load up Cosmic Raiders and show you how that's done. I don't give walkthroughs or talk over any of these programs. I plan to do that later when I do full reviews of some of these games and software. Then I have Monkey Jump, which is a game by Wavemakers again, and this one is also an upgrade of an Astro Basic game. Then I have a program that originally was by Leroy Flam, and it wasn't really released. It came out in 1985, but part of it is printed in the Arcadian, and the data for it is not. This is the data, and it shows a space shuttle being printed to the screen and a robot who you might recognize being printed to the screen. The program was also able to print to a plotter. I don't know how this worked, but the plotter was somehow hooked up to the Blue RAM Basic hardware, and then you could print to a little Penman plotter, which was pretty cool. I've seen examples of that on YouTube, and it looks pretty neat. Then there is a game by Ken Lil, which is called Snake Snack. I've actually done a full review of this game once before, but it's a pretty fun game, and I think you'd enjoy playing it. Finally, there's one other program, finally a program by Wavemakers called Wack-A-Mole. It's okay. It looks pretty neat. I like some of the features they use of Blue RAM, but this is also originally an Astro Basic game. I'm using this game because of some of those features I was talking about, like the scrolling of the mole going up and down. And the last one I'm showing is Outpost 19, which is the last program written for the Bally by Wavemakers. This program was never released on tape as far as I'm aware, but it was printed in one of the last issues of the Arcadian. This is a Blue RAM upgrade, which significantly makes this program look a lot better. They both play relatively the same, but if you have a Blue RAM, then you owe it to yourself to play this program. This is probably my favorite game for the Blue RAM, and Outpost 19 is also probably one of my favorite games for Astro Basic. It looks much better in its Blue RAM form, but the gameplay is the same. but I've had a couple of people ask me about the hardware. Over the years, I've had many people ask about the hardware because this is one of the most rare items for the system. It's not the rarest, but it's any RAM expansion for the Astrocade is pretty rare. This is my favorite one. It's even better, I think, than Ken Lil's Lil White RAM. However, it is basically impossible to get, and Ken Lil's is available usually currently. I think it's going to be re-released again coming up soon. Right now it's May 2018, so maybe you'll see it again within a few months, and when they sell, they're pretty reasonably priced, maybe $100 or $200 for a new unit. It doesn't feature all the features of the Blue RAM, but it features most of them, and in fact it features some features that you can't get without it, or with the Blue RAM. So I hope you enjoy this video. It didn't take me too long to get together. I'm trying to make these videos come together a little faster, so the quality is not what I want, but the quality of these videos is never what I want. I want them to look like they were produced in a studio, and I'm not that guy. I'm just a guy with a camera that can produce some video. I hope you enjoy it. If you get a chance to bug somebody about the emulator, please do. The Blue RAM is not emulated. RAM expansion isn't emulated, but the serial input-output is not emulated, and the tape input-output is not emulated of this under emulation. So maybe with enough people calling for this to be emulated in the MAME emulator, it will someday be added. All right, check out the videos and look at the credits afterward. And after the video, I might actually have a few screenshots of programs that were written in Blue RAM that take advantage of what this system is capable of doing. I recently uploaded a video art program for Blue RAM Basic that was for the Blue RAM unit. And I asked a few friends for advice, had them watch the video or part of the video, and two of them were wondering if it was a good idea just to throw the Blue RAM out there and just assume users knew what that meant. So, for those people who don't know what the Blue RAM is, I'm going to make this video. This is what the Astrocade looks like. This is what the Astrocade program, or this is the inside of it, and then in the back you can see right there, there is something attached to the 50-pin edge connector. And you don't have to open up the Astrocade to do it, but I always have the Astrocade off on my unit. So, or I always have the top cover off on my unit. So this is what it looks like when it's off. And the Blue RAM is this unit there. I have it set up like this so that you can get a good idea of what it looks like. I'm going to pause the video now and then take another video with a close-up of it. This is a close-up of the Blue RAM. I have put a cartridge next to it for comparison. This is the Astro Basic cartridge. Even though it says Bally Basic, since it has the built-in 2000 baud interface, it is referred to as Astro Basic. This 16K Blue RAM unit was probably released in 1982 or 83, and it has, like I said, 16K. The first Blue RAM units were shipped in 1980 for the Bally Arcade, and they had 4K in it. There's units that have 4K, 8K, 16K, and 32K. Although there's only very few units, maybe I think I was told 5 units that were shipped with 32K. I'm now going to remove the unit from the back of the Astrocade and give you more details on it. Here again is the Blue RAM unit. This time it is set side by side with a Astro Basic cart for size comparison. I'm going to show you a little bit closer like this. This is how thick it is. I'll move it out a little bit here. And now I'm going to just do a close-up of the Blue RAM itself. This is the Blue RAM up close. This unit is particularly dirty, but it's seen a lot of use over the years. This one used to belong to Mike White, who used it for many things over a couple decades. So it's seen heavy use and it's been well loved, if not particularly well cleaned. I'm going to explain to you what some of this stuff we're looking at is. This is the 24-pin ZIF socket. It's got a port A and a port B here. You can plug in such devices as you'd plug in a keyboard here, you'd plug in a printer here, you could plug in modems to it. What else could you plug into? You could plug in a device called, I think, an X10 home controller, and there was software written for it so that it would allow you to turn the lights on and off in your house, and that stuff is available online at Bally Arcade, the software. The hardware is extremely hard to find. I thought I had a modem, excuse me, not a modem, a keyboard, which I don't seem to have anymore. If I have it, I misplaced it, but I never used it too much anyway. Now I'm going to do even more of a close-up to show you some other things, but I'm going to show you this switch, which is the range switch, this switch which is the mode switch, and this switch which is the tape switch. That's up next. Please excuse how dirty this unit is. It can't really be cleaned. As I was saying earlier, this is the ZIF socket. You use this little lever to lock the pins in place, and this will release them. ZIF socket stands for zero insertion force. Then we have the range switch. All three of these are toggles. These are two-way toggles. This one and this one. This is a three-way toggle. Middle, forward, all the way. These are the positions I always have them in. So here we have the RAM switch. It's called the range switch. Excuse me. This is called the range switch, and it switches between 8K and 2K. In machine language, 2K is where cartridge is expected to be found. 8K is the start of the RAM area. Here we have a mode switch. It's pretty unusual because the system can be set for this. It can be set for RAM and hardware. The middle position is RAM or ROM selectable in software, and this position here is ROM. So right now, if you tried to write to RAM, it's not RAM anymore, it's ROM. But I always have it in RAM position. I hardly ever use ROM position. And here we have a selector, so you can choose between the input for the ear and microphone jack, which is here on the side. I'll show you those soon. In this position, it's the earphone, so this is how you will be able to get input in. In this position is the microphone, so this is how you would get you'd write to the a tape recorder, or in my case, when I use it, I write to a computer and save it as a WAV file. So those are the three switches. One last thing on here you can see here is a little LED. Well, you can't see that it's an LED, but it is an LED, and it lights up when you're doing input. I think it also lights up when you're doing output. I can't quite remember. This unit here, I'm going to turn on its side so you can check out what the inputs look like. Here's the side of the unit. If you're looking at it with the ZIF socket all the way to the left from the front, then this is the left side of the unit. Excuse me, it's the right side of the unit. These are the two inputs for the 2000 baud tape interface, which nowadays you don't use tape normally. This is going to go to the microphone, so this would be going to the microphone on the on the tape. This would be going to the earphone. So this would be input, this would be output. Here we have a 6-volt DC input. I use a generic switchable power supply that was gotten off eBay. When I got my original BlueRAM unit, it actually came with an Atari power supply that was for something I hadn't even heard of. I tried to find out, but I don't know what it was. So that's basically the hardware. I might put some screenshots of what it looks like inside, but we'll see. I'm not going to talk about the software of the BlueRAM unit, but let's go back to checking it out just a little bit more. I thought that I would give one more look at the BlueRAM hardware from above. Now you can really tell just how dirty this unit is. It can't really be cleaned, it's just a paper sticker. If I was to try to clean it, it would just take off the paper. So I can't really do that, but I thought I'd show you the switches once more. So once again, this is the switch that controls the input and output 2 ports on the side. So that would be input, this is output. This is the port that controls if you're going to have this unit be read at 8K or the 2K area. And 2K area is where cartridges are kept. I haven't really gone into this, and I'm not going to go into it in this video, but this unit could be used with a utility called the BlueRAM utility to program in machine language using hex values, and then you could switch the switch, go from 8K to 4K, excuse me, to 2K, and then even if there was a cartridge in the Astrocade, it would still treat this unit here as a cartridge, and if you did it correctly, then you could program, or then you could run cartridges basically from tape that you wrote yourself, or as other people would do at the time period, they would dump cartridges to tape and then load them and run basically cartridges from tape, which is pretty cool. I'll put this back here. And finally, I'm going to show you this last switch, which is the mode switch. And here it's RAM. Oh, excuse me, there it's software selectable, and here it is ROM. So before you'd always use this switch and this switch together in that position. And you'd want to use this switch and this switch together in that position. The middle switch I've never used, but apparently you can control it through hardware in BASIC or in machine language. This is not actually the Blue RAM keyboard, but I thought I'd show this one anyway, because this is called the Jamco JE610 ASCII keyboard. And the reason I'm showing it is because this is the type of keyboard that was used for the Blue RAM keyboard. I really wish that I could find mine, but there's some differences here that you might notice between a regular keyboard, and when I say regular keyboard, I mean like a standard 101 key keyboard, or if it's a Windows keyboard, it's 104 keys, I think. This keyboard has 63 keys. So obviously it has far less. But even more than that, something that this keyboard is trying to emulate, which modern keyboards don't really do, is it's trying to be more like a typewriter keyboard. So you can't really tell in this video here, but I'm going to turn it a little bit and I'm going to show you. In order for it to be like usable with your hands, it actually, now the keys are straight, and this is, I'd say, probably about a 35-degree angle, maybe even a 40-degree angle, so it's much more comfortable with your hands when you're typing. And what this would help with, and people didn't realize it at the time, but flat keyboards are one of the reasons, not the only reason, many other reasons, but it's one of the reasons why people get carpal tunnel syndrome and repetitive stress injury syndrome. And so they were actually on the right track at the time when the PC came out in 1981, and they sort of introduced a flat keyboard, not completely flat, but it's usually called that. They were on the wrong track, and of course now you can get ergonomic keyboards, which sort of help with that, and I have one of those myself, and it works great. So I think I have a couple pictures I'm going to introduce into this video too that are of my keyboard that I did take, and it'll show you this. They are pictures of my Blue RAM keyboard. This one would be the generic that you'd buy, and I have a 6-page data sheet online that goes along with this that is helpful if you wanted to interface this with your computer or your Astrocade. Of course, these are pretty much not available anymore, and not too many people have hooked up an Astrocade to a keyboard, but those that did found that because of the way BASIC worked, it wasn't too much faster to type with the 63 key keyboard over the 24 key keypad that's built into the Astrocade. I've tried both. I actually prefer the 24 key keypad. Yeah, you might find that hard to believe. However, there were programs that were written that would take advantage of this, like there was a word processor of basic sorts that worked with the Blue RAM. So I'm not really trying to get into the hardware anymore here. I might show you some other details in another video. Here's one final look at the Blue RAM. This time I'm going to move it around a little bit. Like I was saying earlier, this is the 50-pin connector that plugs into the back of the Astrocade. When you had an Astrocade, it had a knockout that you'd have to break off in order to put this and connect it in. It's pretty tight fit, but it does, once it's on, it just stays put. It's not like say the ZX81 where the 16K RAM expansion could just fall out. In fact, that's even emulated in software with those ZX81 emulators. Why, I'm not sure. Maybe there's some advantage to it. So the zip sock here is maybe from the side, a little better. You've seen that already. Bottom, or the back, I mean. I'm not going to show the bottom because it actually has Michael's phone number on it. And in case he ever lost it, someone could call him and say, I have your Blue RAM. But this, yeah. So I'll bring it up a little closer. If you get a chance to get one of these, or any RAM expansion for the Astrocade, I highly recommend this one. It does have some, it can do things that other ones cannot do. The only one I know of that's available currently is, or it goes in and out of production, is Ken Lil's Lil White RAM, which is partially based, I think, sort of on this one, but it doesn't have the I/O chip because it's unavailable. In most, the serial I/O chip is mostly not available, and it's hard to get at least, and it's been out of production for many years, probably decades. All right, well, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I may follow it up with a couple of stills of maybe even some software for the system. What can you do with it? But that'll give you an idea of what can be done with the system. I hope that you've enjoyed the video, and look forward to some more videos about this Blue RAM coming up, or not about the hardware, but about the software that can run on it. Thanks for watching.